Hello, everyone, to join us. Michella here. Michella has been a customer of ours for the last few years. So, Michella, could you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Michella Chiu. I have been in multifamily for around 5 years by now, and I have been supporting different teams, mainly in the underwriting function. So I have been using cash flow portals, AI underwriting tool for a few years by now. So I have seen the evolvement of how the tool has grown and has evolved to include many functions that really caters to the needs of co-GP or KPs. So happy to be here and share my experience with you.
Thank you so much. Michelle, tell me a little bit about your background outside of real estate. So, what is your, say, W-2 job outside of underwriting, where you went to school, and how did you get into real estate in the first place?
This is a funny story. So I was originally trained as a historian. I went to Princeton for my PhD, and then I decided that I actually don't really like to teach, or I don't want to write a book that only 3 people in the world read. So I decided to go into marketing, which can truly use my left brain and my right brain at the same time to the full. Yeah, and I've become a marketing executive of well-known brands actually, and also global agency networks. So yeah, in the past, I have supported Fortune 500 brands such as Mars, Campbell's, Johnson and Johnson, and more. So yeah, I eventually found myself bringing my historian mind, analyzing and collecting evidence, and also my marketing mind of crunching numbers, all going into multifamily underwriting. And that is partly why underwriting for multifamily deals and commercial deals is a perfect home for me, because I can fully utilize my past experience and the skills I get from my W-2 career as well.
So, you made a connection to underwriting. Tell us a little bit about when you were getting started. You have done a lot of Excel underwriting, and were you looking for AI underwriting in the last, call it 3 years ago? What did you do and what was important for you? And then, I think you have a whole list of vendors you look at.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
I actually started off underwriting on deals by actually building my own spreadsheet. And the origin of it is really that there isn't really one that allows me to write down things my way in some ways. I can explain it a little bit. I found out that in the way of underwriting, every underwriter actually has their own habits. So a good underwriting model actually needs to be a little bit personalized and a little bit customizable as well, no matter what. Sometimes there are definitely a lot of good underwriting models out there that are used by a lot of GP, and they are on Excel files. But I eventually found out 2 main problems. One, it is not very customizable, meaning that it does not allow you to think or put information or data in order according to the way you think about the deal logically. And unfortunately, every underwriter's logic is a little bit different. For example, I personally like to see things a very specific way because I need to think about what happens first and then next and then the consequences, just like a historian, actually.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yes, that's why, for example, even for very simple things like expenses, I always start thinking about marketing or advertising first and then other things, because to me, my mind tells me that a property needs to be visible first or need to be known first to get tenants, and then we execute on the business plan. So that is a very specific thing with me. And we eventually find out that if you are using an Excel spreadsheet, if you work on the formatting or change the order of things, it can actually mess up the circular calculation formula sometimes. It can also mess up the cross-referencing of different tabs. So a software in comparison has a lot of advantages over an Excel spreadsheet. And another thing I would also like to highlight is that Excel spreadsheets sometimes make it really hard to compare and contrast different models or different cases, because you will be forced to create different tabs sometimes, or copy and pasting different panels sometimes. And then like the formula or the referencing can also be off, depending on sometimes like really small things. For example, whether you type a whether you type an additional like dollar sign into the reference, like to make sure that you're still referring to the same cell. That kind of really small tactical things that if you don't catch it in one time, it can grow into a huge mistake. So I think like in comparison, software in that regard can really avoid human errors. I do not have to consistently check on the accuracy of my formulas in comparison to an Excel spreadsheet. So we eventually switch to the cash flow portal tool.
Now, you also come into the realization that it's hard to refactor a spreadsheet, to borrow an engineering term. It's hard to make additional improvements without going through breaking a bunch of things. Why did you decide to look for a software? How many vendors did you interview? Because some people might say AI is still new at the time. I understand my spreadsheet. How do you go from I need to have control to like, okay, now I actually want to use someone else's creation?
Right. I think like this is also some learnings from my marketing W2 background as well. Just like real estate, there are actually software and tools out there that are very good. It honestly, like cash flow portal AI underwriting tool is not the only one in the market, but like I quickly learned about two things. One, if you are switching from your own model or your own work as proprietary, meaning that like you build it from scratch yourself, switching to someone else's things, there will always be a learning curve. And what I discovered is that, and that is very same in my marketing career as well. People at the very beginning, because of time, because of habits, may not exactly be rejecting a software. They are rejecting the learning curve that you have to learn in order to hop on a software. So I did actually persuade myself to, or almost force myself to jump in and learn to use cash flow portal by asking the product team a number of questions. And like Perry, like we had some exchanges about this as well. And I think it is part of the journey that I know that this is going to save me time down the road. And I am investing time to put on this learning curve. And I know that it will grow fruits in the future, which it is what it is right now. So I think the very first thing I will highlight for everybody is that expect that to be a learning curve. It will not be an immediate thing, but like your outcome will be so rewarding down the road. You're going to save so much time down the road. I remember like when I start using a spreadsheet, even though it's something that I am more accustomed to, I typically spend around 5 hours to 6 cleaning the data and then inputting in a spreadsheet. And then with like cash flow portal tool, I successfully cut it into sometimes 1.5 hours or 2, which is amazing because this means that I can underwrite 3 or 4 more deals every day. There is a comfortability level with how much we trust the AI model versus like what price tag we are willing to pay or how sophisticated we need it to be. And there is a sweet spot for every different team, and every team can come up with a very different conclusion. And that is partly why we end up using cash flow portal AI tool, because it is in the sweet spot of what we want to pay. And it has the functionality of we need to save us time, while there are things that it will improve in the future. We know by the product team giving us by taking our feedback. So everything is just right for us.
What do you think was the most significant improvement? Like in the early days, do you remember what feature that we did? It's like, oh, wow, okay, now I think this is like pretty good. And then what features recently or nowadays that like, okay, this is getting really better, that surprised you? Like you actually didn't know you wanted it until we ship it. It's like, oh, okay, this is something I want.
I think I am always most impressed by the sensitivity analysis chart.
Okay.
Because it makes things very easy, and I can easily provide feedback to my code GP team as well. And that feedback goes back actually very often on the business plan. So like, I think like the process with the support of cash flow portal AI tool is that we are focusing our weekly meeting time among our co-GP team members, focusing on locking down a business plan rather than looking at the accuracy of the data, finding human errors, and which is a huge win for us. And with that like sensitivity chart, we can always go back to our own team and say, hey, if we want to hit a certain revenue target or return target, we really need like rent growth to hit X. And like that is also in consideration of certain market factor that is not controllable. And that's where the market cap rate changes in the sliding scale comes. So I think like I would rate this as the number one feature that I love.
Last question. As a company, what do you think you like most about the company, and what do you think are our biggest strengths?
I think like our casual portal product team is really professional, and I'll get back to my questions very quickly. Well, like at the very beginning, for example, I do need some handholding in product education, learning how to use the tool. I do provide feedback about what I need as well. So I consistently feel that like it is not only me complaining about the product, although I'm not really complaining, but like it is like we're genuinely having a conversation about where this tool can go in the future and how people like me can utilize AI and utilize technology to unlock more productivity in our day to day. So yeah, like I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to learn from the product team because like I do get a lot out of it.
All right. Thank you so much, Michella. Anything else you want to add or say to the audience?
I would say invest the time to learn about AI and technology because there is a learning curve and sometimes we are blocked by our own psychological fear while like the learning curve is not that steep. So like, yeah, hop on. It will unlock a lot of productivity for you and it will unlock a lot more opportunities for you.